Hello out there in YouTube land. My name is Lee Hansen. I have a YouTube channel called Lee Hansen the Writer. I've been writing for a couple of years now. I like to write stories about the occult, the supernatural, ghosts and stuff like that, seances. I've got several books on Amazon bookseller. I'm currently working on volume 4 of my book, The Waitman House Seance. You can see samples of volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3 of The Waitman House Seance on Amazon booksellers. You can click on there and they let you read a chapter of it or a couple chapters, something like that. And there's a synopsis of the story in the book description, so you can kind of get an idea of it. I got serious about writing a couple of years ago. Been wanting to do it all my life, but I just never got around to it. I had too many other things to do, like put food on the table. Had children to raise and houses to build. Chasing the dollars. If you're young, you're probably out there chasing them yourself now. But now I'm over 70, so I don't have to chase the dollars so much anymore. I'll have my house paid off in a few years, and I'm getting a Social Security check to live on every month. So I got a lot more time on my hand to write stories. I've written, I don't know how many stories now, probably a couple hundred. Most of them are short stories, and they're also available in a 7-volume set on Amazon. That set's called Bits and Pieces of Stuff, and there's probably 140 plus short stories in the whole set. I like to write about aliens and fairies and dragons and ghosts and goblins and stuff that hides in the woods at night. I got a couple Sasquatch stories, and I created Waterman, a guy that's sort of like Aquaman, but he has special powers. I wrote myself into some of the stories. I tried a little experimenting with everything. I wrote a couple Western stories of gunfighters, and I kind of wanted to do it all, go around the world, write a little something about everything. I even wrote a story under an assumed name. I pretended to be a lady by the name of Lucretia Farrington, and I wrote about a fantasy guest house where the only way you could get there was in a dream. You'd wake up in your dream and you were inside the faraway guest house, and there was a staff there waiting to meet you, and you'd have a night there. And during that night, a night of your dreaming equaled a night of day at the faraway guest house. And all kinds of stuff, revelations that happen, and all kinds of weird things. It's kind of too complicated to go into, but it starts out with a lady when she's a young child, and she gets exposed to a haunted house. And then life progresses, and she gets older, she gets married. Her husband dies of cancer. Eventually, she goes to sleep one night and wakes up, and she's in the faraway guest house. And it's an enchanted house, huge old Victorian house on the edge of a embankment on the ocean. I guess it must be the Atlantic Ocean, although I never really decided. I just wrote the story. And then people come there. All the people that work there, the gardener and the handyman, The cook, the maid, everybody that works at the faraway guest house is somebody that died in their sleep. They died in their sleep, and when they woke up in the morning, they were laying in the bed at the faraway guest house. And they didn't know what was going on. It was like, whoa, man, where am I? And they'd go downstairs and talk to the lady that ran the house. And she explained to them that they had passed away overnight. And instead of going to heaven or the hot place, they wound up at the faraway guest house, where they had a job and friendly people waiting for them. And they could be a part of the educating of the dreamers that would come from time to time. So anyway, that's just a real quick rundown on that one. I wrote that one as Lucretia Farrington, and I thought it would be a nice story for women in particular, because it's centered around a woman in charge of a guest house. Magical, supernatural. Then I wrote another women's story, but I wrote it under my own name. It's called SEANCE for Lana. And it's a young woman who has had trouble sleeping. Her grandmother, Lana, keeps coming to her in dreams, and she's all disheveled and crying, sitting on the edge of the bed, very unhappy. And the star of the story, her name is Laura. She's trying to deal with the heartache of all the loss. Laura works in a flower shop in a little western Washington town called Millerton. Being an author, you have the freedom to invent towns, so I invented a town, called it Millerton, put up all the buildings. It's got a VFW hall and flower shop, gas station, school, everything. It's complete. That's the fun of being an author, is you get to create entire towns if you want to. And during the course of Laura's adventure, she has some crazy and wacky friends. One of them is named Zelda Kosmecki, and Zelda is a psychic medium. She's 35 years old, and she's just starting to test her wings. She's got a few seances under her belt, and she has had genuine possessions. She uses a spirit board and crystal ball, records the seances when she gives them. And she's had quite a bit of adventures on her own, even though she's a bit character in my story. Another character in the SEANCE for Lana is Dee Dee Kramer. She's another 35-year-old woman who lives in Millerton. She's got a wacky boyfriend named Freddie Jones who drives an old muscle car. I base these characters on people that I knew when I was younger. So when I think of Freddie, I see one of my friends clearly. When I see Dee Dee Kramer, I see one of my old friends. And that makes it easier for me to write my stories too. Now with Dee Dee, Dee Dee is a tarot card reader. She's been hooked on, infatuated with tarot cards ever since she was a teenager. So she's got about 20 years of knowledge under her belt. And during the course of the story, she does some tarot card readings for different characters in the story. And of course, it's amazing how accurate her card readings are. She goes into a lengthy explanation about tarot card reading. One of her firm rules is you never do a tarot card reading in the presence of people who are drinking any alcohol of any kind, or you don't read tarot cards for somebody that has been drinking. To Dee Dee, tarot card reading is a pure art, and it's not something to be trifled with. It's real, and you don't disrespect it by bad behavior when you're indulging in the art of tarot. She looks at tarot from 5 different angles. from its predictive capabilities to its psychological capabilities. She sees all the different benefits of the tarot card readings, and they're not all supernatural or occult or predicting the future. They're sort of about interpreting your life and getting you to think about the events of your life and where your life is going, where it's been, where it's at, where it's going. When you see the cards and you see the Fool come up, or the King or the Queen or the Jack, and they're identified with people in your lives, it's a way that kind of forces you to look at your own life. It's not so much about the card, it's about the meaning of the card. Who is the Fool? The Fool card. When you get the King or the Queen, who is the King or the Queen? Is the King your father? The Queen your mother? Your employer? Friend? Anyway, I've put a pretty heavy influence of the tarot cards into my book, A SEANCE for Lana. There's also some pretty heady dream sequences in there. Laura wakes up in her grandparents' house. She doesn't really realize she's dreaming. And you know, if you're experienced in dreaming, that's how they sometimes are. While you're dreaming, you aren't really aware that you're dreaming. And in her dream, she sits down at the kitchen table and has a cup of cocoa that her grandmother made for her. Grandma Lana, the one that passed away. And so during the course of the dream, her grandmother imparts wisdom to her, helps her work out things in her life. Her boyfriend, who's a teacher at the school there in the town I invented, talks about Grandpa. He's out fishing. But in real life, he's actually still alive, heartbroken because his wife passed away. But anyway, those are a couple of the stories I wrote. It took me several months to write each story, and I not only tried to write a story, but I tried to engineer a story so that it was multifaceted, that not only could you enjoy it, because I write in a detailed style where there's a lot of details, and you got to pay attention to follow it, but there's also other messages that you can get from the stories that are kind of underneath the surface a little bit. The grandfather, they attend a wedding celebration at the Eagles Hall there in Millerton. And the old man goes in to have some drinks in the bar with his old friends. Everybody's in their 70s. And there's revelations for the old man, too. When he thinks back on the past and he looks around the room at all the men in their 70s that are there, he realizes that 3/4 of everybody is gone. The only ones in the room are the survivors, the old guys that are in their 70s now. All the stories that they sit around and tell while they're drinking a glass of whiskey, most of the guys in the stories died years ago. And it's a sort of a reflection on life. You have young people in the story and they're at one stage in life, and you have older people who are at the end stages of life. I tried to make these stories more than just a simple story, but there's kind of a lesson built into most of them too. I've got quite a few stories, so it's going to take me a few videos to actually discuss them all. But I thought I'd start with these couple of books here that I mentioned. You can get a free sample of them and read a little bit of them. And also on my page, I have some videos, shorts, that tell some of the story, so it kind of gives you an idea of what it's about. And I hope you can enjoy it. It doesn't cost anything to listen to the video and think about the story. That part's free. If you want the book, that's your choice, but I hope you do enjoy the stories, and I hope you benefit in ways that I intended. Good night.